Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com.
So, can you remember the last time you were bored? Do you ever actually remember a time that you were bored? It's an innocuous question, it would seem, but you would. I actually think I've been thinking about this a lot in the last little while because, I clearly remember times like growing up when there were times when you were bored and didn't know what to do and all that. And I don't actually recall a lot of that happening in the last 10, 15 years. And I think, we'll go into the detail on a bit more through the episode here. But it's literally, if you choose, if you're not sort of perceptive of how you spend your time and you just sort of go on autopilot, it actually is, with the amount of distractions that are out there at the moment, your phone, tablet, laptop, streaming services, whatever it is, and the fact that you can access these from anywhere at any time, unless you're in some super remote location. And even then, you could have your phone with preloaded games on it or something if you wanted to. It's literally impossible to get bored in the world we're in at the moment. And I have to imagine that, given like some of the discussions that we've had in the past about where's everything going because of the degradation of discussion and the way vitriol happens online and how all that sort of stuff and the progression of all of that, then maybe this is also a component of it because people are overstimulated with no ability or without taking some real conscious effort to switch those things off and allow for some boredom to creep in so that they can then reevaluate, maybe I should be doing this or maybe I should be doing that as a more productive use of my time. But this is a really significant aspect that needs to be considered when thinking about all of this.
Yeah, I think boredom and hunger are two things that are rapidly being eliminated in the developed world. If you think about it now, for a lot of people, every time they even feel a little bit hungry, there's a snack. And I think you summed it up nicely before. Now, every time before we're even bored, we've already picked up our phone and we're scrolling something. So, yeah, I wonder if it exists anymore. I wonder if that space between feeling our intuitive physiological reflexes and experiencing them is, something that's just falling by the wayside in a modern tech-heavy world.
Absolutely. And it, I think actually the correlation with hunger is actually such a good example, and you've kind of highlighted it there specifically. It's you're never really truly hungry, then you don't really appreciate that feeling of hunger to then drive you to search out something novel or just some food or whatever to get there. And it kind of works the same way for your mind. And that's what boredom is. It's a form of hunger for your mind.
Exactly.
It's in those moments of boredom that you can suddenly find the ability to be more creative, to be, less anxious, to understand what novelty is, something new, for instance, or firing up your imagination. Or it could also motivate you to find new goals that you hadn't considered before, because if you don't have that time where you're sort of stuck not knowing what to do because you're bored, you're not actively thinking about those things. And arguably, the biggest issue with social media and other things like never-ending streaming and all this sort of things is that your brain effectively goes into autopilot, and it doesn't really. It becomes I don't know how you would call it. It just becomes less engaged and less likely to actually exercise itself, for lack of a better word.
Oh, totally. So if you think about a no-tech world, then you've got the 3 C's that can save you from boredom, which is creativity, collaboration, and communication. And if you think about it, if you sort of if all the power went off and you didn't have any tech devices, the first thing you'd do as soon as you were bored would be try to find somebody else to communicate with, to talk to pass the time. Then from there, you'd probably like collaborate, i.e. do something together, play a game, do something, go for a walk, find something of interest that you can talk about. And then thirdly is as you pointed out, the creativity. And I think it's a fair bet that things like music and art stemmed from, very primitive times for our species, where there was time to fill, time to kill. And, music and art and storytelling all became parts of entertaining us to stave off boredom. And they're very creative and community sort of focused activities. And unfortunately, in the modern age, staving off boredom in a lot of ways seems to be a very individual and solo sort of exercise.
And I think it kind of highlights at a macro level it's the human experience, for lack of a better word, and what motivates us, what drives us, what kind of gets us to our optimal potential. And I guess the danger is that we've got all this wonderful technology available to us at the moment, but a bit like how we've discussed before about how social media didn't come with a rule book on best use, ideas for best use across the board. Technology, like just about everything, is an exercise in moderation to get the best out of it. So, in other words, you have to switch it off at some point. To re-engage with yourself just as a person and as a with your own brain and your own intelligence to try and work things out. But I guess the danger in today's modern world is that there isn't there are people out there talking about these things, but it either gets lost in the shuffle or doesn't get out, and it's not like there's no universally accepted kind of vibe or feel that this is something that is actually super important in terms of being able to do these things.
No, there's plenty of opinion about it that you can read, and plenty of sites that you can visit, and plenty of apps you can use to beat boredom. But nothing I think actually beats being on your own in an environment where you have to be creative to entertain yourself. And I don't know what impact it will have on us moving forward. I think social media has had a lot of impacts on us as a society in the way that we feel and express ourselves. And, with boredom also falling by the wayside, if we look at what not being hungry has done to us as a society, then I'm worried about not being bored, what impacts that might have on us as a society as well.
Sort of brain atrophy at some point. Maybe we'll end up like those characters in Wall-E or something, strapped to our chairs.
It'll be a new opportunity for another startup to help us all mentally. And I do actually wonder if a lot of the mental health issues today are a sign that we're not being bored, we're not communicating with ourselves, we're not looking inwards as to the sorts of things that we would want or like to do that are simple, and interacting with the environment around us. So it may well be that in the future, well, I don't know how you're going to solve this problem with an app. I mean, unless it turns off your phone and turns off all the technology around you.
Well, the last thing I wanted to touch on with this is more like a challenge more than anything else. And it's kind of born out from a lot of clips I've seen of, again, tech YouTubers, etc., talking about screen on time. And, a lot of our phones and everything will tell us how long we've been spending, as an on-screen thing. It's funny, I always actually thought that I might have been like a high user, between each, if you calculate, laptop time and phone time and all that. I can't ever seem, like at least on my personal devices, I can't ever seem to crack 2 hours across, like as a maximum on, and that's the highest day possible on any given day across all the devices I use. Yet I hear these stories about people using like, they're rating battery life on a smartphone because they're getting, I'm getting my usual 6, 7, 8 hours of on-screen time, and I just kind of sit there and I think, how? Like, like my challenge would be to anyone listening to this is try and see if you are one of those people that go over 2 hours, try to keep it as a maximum of 2 hours at most. And even that seems like an upper higher limit anyway. But to get to 6, 7, 8 hours of device usage seems crazy to me, and no wonder there's a destruction in the terms of why people aren't bored and why it's affecting their ability to be creative and to think.
Well, now I understand why I can get 3 days out of my iPhone's battery. Yeah, I agree, Ben. I'd be concerned for anyone. I'd be concerned for anyone who spends a lot of time on their phone. 6 to 8 hours it's too much. And if you're gainfully employed at 38 hours a week or whatever the number is, and you're rocking up, with 8 hours a day on the phone, that just doesn't leave you a lot of view time.
Exactly. All right, Steve, we might wrap it up there. And yes, ironically, we're producing some content for you to consume on your phone right now, but hopefully we've imparted a few dot points that are helpful.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so don't forget our website, SciTechCulture.com. You can get all of our links and content there. You can subscribe to our YouTube, Vimeo channels and RSS feed, so watch us all there, and we've got various other content on there, and we greatly appreciate your visits. All right, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.